What's going on, YouTube? Welcome back to the Dose Media Network YouTube channel. In today's video, I will be going over my 4 favorite props for today's games on the Saturday slate. So Chiefs versus Jags, and then we have the Giants versus the Philadelphia Eagles. I will be giving you 4 props and hopefully going 4-0 in this video. Just want to give a quick shout out to you guys. We just hit 1,000 subscribers. Huge mark for us, and we really appreciate everybody that has taken the time to hit the subscribe button, comment on our videos, join the Discord, etc., etc. We really appreciate it, and we're just going to keep on pumping out this Prizepicks content. So without further ado, let's get into the Saturday video. Kadarius Toney over 7 fantasy score is one of my favorite props for the Saturday slate. Now, there are reports that Kadarius Toney is quote-unquote going to be unleashed tomorrow in the divisional game for the Kansas City Chiefs. And I mean, it makes a ton of sense in the world. They haven't really had any consistent production out of any of their wide receivers this year. And Juju Smith-Schuster, who's had a couple of down games. MVS is obviously an irrelevant scrub. Justin Watson is whatever. Sky Moore has been a disappointment as, you know, a high draft pick for the Kansas City Chiefs. So Kadarius Toney has the burst, he has the elusiveness, he has the agility that we want in a fantasy asset. I think he is the best Chiefs wide receiver, and 7 fantasy score is just too low if you think that he's going to be used in this new way. And I just want to play the fantasy score because it bakes in the rushing upside that obviously they have shown the willingness to give him the ball on the ground. So maybe you get a rushing touchdown. That's 6 points right there, pretty much hitting this prop. And then it obviously bakes in the receptions, the receiving yards as well. So I love Kadarius Toney over 7 fantasy score. If you want, you can play his receiving yards. I like that as well, but over 7 fantasy score is the first prop for this video. Jalen Hurts over 124.5 passing yards is my second favorite prop for this video. Jalen Hurts has just been a greened out goblin when it comes to the first half passing yards. 124.5 is a bumped line. It got bumped up from 115.5, which I have multiple slips locked in with that already. But the way the Eagles come out of their games is they have a set of plays that they want to get off. They essentially run their first halves on a script, or at least their first couple of drives. And we see time and time again that the Eagles come out of these games in the opening few drives and literally just let Jalen Hurts rip the ball. And that's why he's greened out, averaging 169 passing yards over his last 5 matchups. And he's averaging more passing yards in the first half than this number. And 124.5, I think, is just still too low for a player of Jalen Hurts' upside, especially this season, and especially with how the Philadelphia Eagles have played offense this year. So over 124.5 passing yards is the second prop for this video. For the third prop, I'm going to take another Kansas City Chiefs. The Chiefs are just in the best spot on the slate. They have the highest implied team total at 31 points currently. They're in the highest game total at 53 points currently. So I just want as much exposure to this Kansas City Chiefs offense as I possibly can. And Travis Kelce over 17 fantasy score looks like a very good look. Now, Travis Kelce has not scored a touchdown since week 12, which is obviously pretty worrisome, but he's one of the league leaders in red zone opportunity, and opportunity is all that matters. Obviously, you want your players to capitalize, but if they're not getting the opportunity, they're bad bets. But Travis Kelce is a good bet for red zone opportunity. The Jags are also one of the worst defenses against opposing tight ends. We saw that last week. Gerald Everett had a career game against Jacksonville. Travis Kelce over 17 fantasy score. I really love it. I wouldn't bet on his yards. I wouldn't bet on his catches just because his lines in those aspects are very high, but 17 fantasy score incorporates his touchdown upside as well as the receptions and the receiving yards. And obviously this is one of the best spots on the slate for any team. So over 17 fantasy score is my third and favorite play for this video. For the fourth and final prop for this video, I will be taking Darius Slayton under 10.5 fantasy points. And really my reasoning for this is just a matchup based argument. The Eagles have one of the best secondaries in the NFL. You know, they're top of the NFL in terms of yards allowed to opposing quarterbacks, and it's just a nightmare matchup for the Giants passing game in this spot. He only had 6.2 fantasy points against the Eagles in their first matchup, didn't play in their week 18 matchup as the Giants rested their starters, but the outside wide receivers going up against Darius Slayton and James Bradbury is just a clear-cut spot to avoid, and I want to capitalize on that by betting on Darius Slayton under 10.5 fantasy points. I think this is a game that the Eagles come out, they dominate the Giants. The Giants won't be able to get anything going through the air. And Darius Slayton, I mean, the only way, in my opinion, that he hits this line is if he scores a touchdown, because I don't think he's going to get the yards. I don't think he's going to get the catches to get you there. So you really only lose by him scoring a touchdown. And if he scores a touchdown, you still have some outs to him going under as well. So under 10.5 fantasy score, I think, is a very, very good look, especially for a player that's, high risk, high reward. He runs a lot of deep routes, and if they're not connecting on the deep routes, he's not going to get fantasy points. And then you also take into account the man could barely catch the ball. So under 10.5 fantasy points is the fourth and final play for this video. And if you skipped ahead, this is the entry. Kadarius Toney over 7 fantasy score. Jalen Hurts over 124.5 first half passing yards. Make sure it's first half. Travis Kelce over 17 fantasy score. Darius Slayton under 10.5 fantasy score. $10 wins you 100. However much you want to put on it, I'll put $10 on it right now, and it is locked in. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Went 4-0 on my last video, 3-1 on the video that I posted before that. So make sure you guys tail, and hopefully we can get this W with these props. I will see you guys next week for the championship games. Until then, be easy and have a profitable week.